Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to Caitlyn Clark Land. So, just a couple things, all right? Um, right now, the Indiana Fever are playing the Chicago Sky in Chicago, and Caitlyn Clark is with the team, and they are up by 10 the last time I looked, and they should be because the Chicago Sky is not a good team, even when Angel Reese is on the court, even when they're at full strength. They're not a good team, okay? So this should be an easy win for the Fever, without a doubt, okay? But a lot of people, making comment that Caitlyn Clark should be at home resting. Well, the first thing I want to impress upon everybody here is that Caitlyn Clark is not on life support, okay? She has an injury. In fact, she was suited up yesterday in practice. She was not in street clothes. She's probably shooting the ball. She's not taking contact right now. She's certainly not practicing at full strength. But the notion that Caitlyn Clark is going to get better quicker if she completely immobilizes her body is not necessarily the truth. Now, Caitlyn Clark has gone out and gotten her own opinions from other doctors other than the Fever team doctors. So we need to assume that Caitlyn Clark will follow those recommendations, and she's, a smart girl, all right? She knows what she can and cannot do. The other thing about Caitlyn Clark is this. She is a team player and always has been, and she is there to cheer her team on. She's genuinely happy when they're playing well and they're winning. She's not like, worried about what's going to happen if she can't play and how she's going to fit back in. She's not that person. She's confident of her capabilities. She knows what she can do on the court. She knows she stands head and shoulders above any other player in the WNBA. Hands down. Look, I went over some numbers yesterday, but let me put something in perspective here so you understand this, okay? She is already this year, as of this year, this is a year and a half in, and this is a year when she has missed how many games? She's only played 12 games this year. She tied the record for the most games with 20 plus points and 10 plus assists in WNBA history. She has tied that record. Okay? If she comes back this year and she has one more, she has broken that record. Okay? Now, it took Courtney Vandersloot 430 games to set the record. 430 games to set that record. The most games were 20 plus points and 10 plus assists. Caitlyn Clark did it in 42 games. All right? So there's actually a great visual out there. I will put it in the video description that shows, Courtney Vandersloot, with her picture and the number of 20 plus points, 10 plus assist games at 400 and how many is it? 430. Okay. Then Caitlyn Clark is in the middle, and she has tied that record in 42 games. And then there's a visual of Diana Taurasi, who has 9 in her career at 500 some odd games. Diana Taurasi, who was known as the previous GOAT. Okay. So we know she stands out. We also know that Caitlyn Clark has more of those in a single season with 6 than Diana Taurasi, who had 3 in a single season. And Diana Taurasi, by the way, has walked back her statement that reality is coming for Caitlyn Clark. She did. Okay. So I'll give her that much credit. Gino Auriemma hasn't yet, but he's a horse's patoot, so he's never going to be any different. He's a misogynist in general. So yes, Caitlyn Clark is in Chicago. She is not playing. We don't know what's going on, but we can make some assumptions here. Okay. It comes to mind that ESPN made the prediction that she would be back on the 12th of August. And that's probably something they really want to see because they are televising that game on the 12th of August. It's also been reported that she's listed as coming back August 11th on the WNBA site. I don't know where that number comes from, but something's afoot. You know, knowing how much money she brings in and what she has meant to the growth of the league, it doesn't surprise me that they're trying to milk this as much as they can, okay, and keep people interested. So that might very well be what's going on. But not only does Caitlyn Clark stand out as a player above the other WNBA players, but she stands out in a very different way. And let's see if I can find this. I'm not sure that I can, but yeah, okay, so let's take a look here. She has a foundation, and her mission is to lift up the youth of America, okay? And she established this foundation actually in 2023 before she even came into the WNBA, all right? And she has partnered with a company called Musco Lighting to build 4 mini pitch systems at Des Moines public school sites. We'll show you what they kind of look like. You know, now we all know that she's got a lot of endorsements. You know, there's Nike, there's Gatorade, she's making ads for State Farm, okay? There's Wilson basketballs. So we understand that, but Caitlyn Clark is visibly doing stuff to help kids, give back to the community. And I think that's another area where, you know, Caitlyn Clark stands above. Here's another one. She surprised 350 Des Moines public school kids with Nike backpacks that were full of books and supplies. And, you know, she actually went there to hand them out herself. This is not the kind of stuff I see from other people. And I'm not putting anybody down, but not only is Caitlyn Clark a great player, but she's a great human being. And it stands out. She, you know, she doesn't stoop to the level that people want her to stoop to. If, you know, we have a lot of, look, let's face it, okay? There are a lot of jealous women in the WNBA who have spent their time talking smack about Caitlyn Clark, okay? And it's been obvious. And people ask me, is there a racial element? Is there a lesbian element? And I'm a lesbian, okay? I'll tell you that there is. And I think there is a racial element, but I don't think that that's what this purely is, okay? I really don't. I'm not going to go there under any circumstance. I really just think this is just women with petty jealousies and thinking that they should have had all of this notoriety before Caitlyn Clark, you know, dared to walk off the college courts and come in and take over the WNBA. And, you know, be declared the face of the WNBA and be declared the GOAT of the WNBA. But clearly her performance has spoken for itself. So I think there's petty jealousy. And frankly, I do think that the women will get more money this year. I don't think either side wants this thing to shut down. I'd be very surprised if that happened. There's always posturing on both sides. There's no question about it. It happens in all sports. It's not just in the WNBA. I don't really think either side wants them to shut down, but these women ought to understand that Caitlyn Clark is in large part the reason they have any leverage at all. So what they ought to do is embrace Caitlyn Clark. She's not a threat to anybody. She's actually a benefit to women's sports in general, not just basketball. Okay, let's be real here. There has been nobody that has moved the needle as quickly as Caitlyn Clark. In fact, there's been nobody in the WNBA that's moved the needle. Yes, the league is still losing money. No question that that's happening. But the strides that they've made since she came into the league are huge. Okay? They used to fly on planes that charged for water. Okay, now they have private flights to their games. So they've benefited from Caitlyn Clark's contribution to the financial stability of the WNBA, and they will keep growing. Caitlyn Clark is a boon to women's sports. And I will tell you this, she will be a legendary basketball player in the WNBA in spite of this year and in spite of the injuries, because she is that person. She will drag this league into credibility no matter what it takes. And no matter who tries to throw a roadblock in her way, I do believe she is determined. And I keep hearing stuff about she's going to go play in Europe and she's going to just walk away. And that's bull. Okay, there is so much misinformation out there. There really is. And Caitlyn Clark has worked all her life to play women's pro basketball. And she's not just going to walk away from the WNBA. Now, do I think that Stephanie White is a great coach for Caitlyn Clark? No, I don't. I don't think Stephanie White's a great coach. Period. And I don't know where she will fit in the long term. And I know that Caitlyn Clark is under contract for 4 years. Now, three of those years are hers to fulfill with the Indiana Fever. The 4th year, the team has an option to pick up her contract. I can't imagine that they wouldn't. But it might also be that Caitlyn Clark doesn't stay. That will depend. But I know one thing about Caitlyn Clark. She's not going to just walk away. You know, people say she just walk away from the Fever. She's got a contract. She's not going to walk away from the Fever. Okay? She will deal with this. Whatever it is that she's dealing with, she will deal with this. And I believe that Caitlyn Clark will be a great player for the Fever after she gets through this injury. Now, if she comes back on the 12th and the Fever are in the playoffs, and, you know, this is their playoff to lose, okay? You know, right now they have, if you look at the probabilities of them making the playoffs, it's really good. So they'd have to really underperform, or some other team would really have to come up and overperform, or a combination of both. They should be able to do this and get themselves back to the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see how things go. We'll see how Stephanie White manages. We'll see how she coaches. You know, I've seen her make some boneheaded moves, and I'm sure there are more boneheaded moves coming. And maybe the team will rise to the occasion in spite of Stephanie White. So that's really, really what I got today. I will be back again. I'm not sure about today, but I will definitely be back tomorrow, because tomorrow is definitely going to be, we're answering questions that people have sent me to address in videos, and I will do that. I also hope to have the petition on refereeing ready for tomorrow. That's where we are. If anything else comes up, I'll come back and bother you again. You guys have a great Sunday.